All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack a really important part of the CompTIA Network Plus exam. We're talking about all the networking appliances, applications, and functions. Basically, all the gear and the smarts that make our digital world go round.
Welcome to the ASM Educational Center video. Today, we will talk about Section 1.2 from the CompTIA Network Plus exam.
So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at your basic toolkit. Then we'll meet the network's traffic cops, the devices directing all the data. After that, it's all about the security guardians. And then we'll figure out where all our data actually lives. We'll wrap up by looking at some essential services before we put it all together and really master these concepts. First things first, let's get a really big idea out of the way. Every single tool we're about to talk about can come in two flavors. It can be a physical box, something with blinking lights that you can actually rack up in a server room, or it can be totally virtual, just a piece of software running on a server or up in the cloud, doing the exact same job.
All right, let's get to know the two biggest superstars of any network. These are the real traffic directors. They're the ones making sure your data gets exactly where it needs to go, whether that's to a printer across the room or a server clear across the globe.
So think of a router, kind of like the GPS for your data. When you send an email or click on a website, your data packet has to travel across the huge, sprawling map of the internet. The router is the device that looks at the destination IP address and says, okay, this is the best, most efficient way to get there.
The most critical thing to remember about a router, and this is huge for the exam, is that its main job is to connect different networks. It connects your little world, your local area network, or LAN, to the great big world outside, the wide area network, or WAN. And it does that by using its routing table, which is basically its own personal address book for the entire internet.
Okay, so if the router is the long-distance GPS between networks, the switch is more like the local mail sorter inside a single office building. It makes sure that the file you're sending from your computer goes directly to the printer down the hall and doesn't get accidentally delivered to everybody else's desk along the way.
So a switch is all about local efficiency. By using a device's unique physical address, its MAC address, it prevents data collisions and keeps everything on the local network running super fast and smooth. Now, sometimes a switch gets a little promotion and becomes a Layer 3 switch, which means it learns some of those fancy router tricks to handle local traffic even more intelligently.
So, we've got our traffic moving. But now, how do we protect it? And how do we make sure it performs at its best? This is where we bring in the network security guards and performance guardians.
You can think of a firewall as the bouncer at the front door of your network club. It stands right at the edge, checking the ID of every single piece of data trying to get in or out. And based on a very strict set of rules, the guest list, if you will, it decides who's allowed in and who gets turned away. An IDS, or intrusion detection system, is like your network security camera system. It's totally passive. It just sits there, quietly watching all the traffic go by. If it spots anything that looks shady, maybe a known pattern of an attack, it doesn't jump in. It just sounds the alarm and sends an alert to the security team.
Now, an IPS, or intrusion prevention system, takes that a huge step further. It isn't just a camera, it's an active security guard. It watches the traffic just like an IDS, but the second it spots a threat, it leaps into action and blocks that malicious activity right there in real time, stopping an attack before it can do any damage.
Now, this slide is really important because it sums up the key difference you absolutely need to know. Just remember it this way. IDS is passive detection. It sees something and says something. IPS is active prevention. It sees something and does something. That distinction is a classic exam topic.
Have you ever wondered how a massive website like Netflix or Amazon can handle millions of people all hitting play at the same time without crashing? Well, this is the secret sauce. A load balancer is the ultimate traffic dispatcher. It sees all those incoming requests and cleverly spreads them out across a whole team of servers, making sure no single one gets buried in work.
A proxy server is like having a personal assistant for your internet browsing. Instead of you going directly to a website, you send your request to the proxy, and the proxy goes to the website on your behalf. This is awesome for a bunch of reasons. It can hide your identity for privacy,
filter out bad websites for a school, or even cache popular content to make things faster for everyone.
Okay, so we've built the roads, we've set up the traffic cops, we've posted the security guards. Now we can finally talk about the whole reason we built the network in the first place, to store and access our data. So let's talk about where all that information actually lives.
This slide breaks down the two main ways we do network storage, and it's a really important concept. On one hand, you have a NAS, or network-attached storage. Just think of it like a simple shared folder on the network. It's super easy. On the other hand, you have the SAN, the Storage Area Network. This is the enterprise-grade beast. It's a whole separate, high-speed network just for storage, offering raw, block-level performance for massive databases.
So we have all this data sitting on our network, but how do we get to it without being tied down by a cable? That, of course, is where wireless comes in. The access point, or AP, is the device that actually creates the Wi-Fi signal. And in a big building with tons of APs, our wireless controller acts like the central command center, managing all of them from one single spot.
We've talked a lot about the physical and virtual boxes, the hardware, but now let's dig into some of the invisible, yet absolutely essential software functions that run on top of it all to keep our network secure and reliable.
A VPN is basically your own private, secret tunnel through the public internet. Let's say you're working from a coffee shop on their public Wi-Fi. A VPN scrambles all of your data and sends it through this secure encrypted pipe. It's the technology that makes secure remote work possible, letting you connect to your office network as if you were sitting right at your desk. Check this out. This is a really cool little safety feature built into networking called Time to Live, or TTL. You can think of it as a self-destruct timer on every single data packet. It starts with a number, and every time it hops through a router, that number ticks down by 1. If the timer ever hits 0, the packet is destroyed. This is brilliant because it prevents a lost or misconfigured packet from getting stuck in a loop and circling the internet forever.
All right, time to switch gears. We've learned about the tools, now let's see how to apply that knowledge. The Network Plus exam is full of scenario questions, so let's try one out right now.
Okay, quick pop quiz. A company's website is getting slammed with traffic, and they need to spread that load across 3 different web servers. Which one of the performance guardians we talked about is designed for exactly this situation?
You got it. It's the load balancer. That's the perfect tool for the job. It's all about ensuring that high availability and preventing any one server from getting overwhelmed. So let's end with this thought. Every single appliance we talked about is really just a building block. You've got a router for internet access, a switch for local speed, a firewall for safety, an AP for wireless freedom. The true skill of a network professional isn't just knowing what each block does, but knowing how to put them all together to build something that's fast, efficient, and secure. What do you think is the most important piece of that puzzle for a small office today?
That wraps up section 1.2. Make sure to check out the next section as we continue exploring the topics in the CompTIA Network Plus exam by ASM Educational Center.